So where did you say we were going?
I don't know. Driver, where are we going?
We're gonna go see the man in the moon.
Live from Miami Subs Grill in Dallas, Texas, with the music of Emerald City, this is Sports Waves. Now, here's your host, Mike Doocy.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Sports Waves. I'm Mike Doocy, a special Halloween edition of our show. We're glad you could be with us. Coming up, we'll have plenty of treats in the form of some outstanding guests. We'll tell you about those people in just a moment, maybe a few tricks thrown in along the way. My co-host today is a guy who could scare any defensive lineman, Cowboys guard Nate Newton.
Oh, man. Boy, you something special, man. Something special.
Quickly, Nate, before we tell the folks who are going to be on our show, quick word about the Cowboys win this past Sunday, a squeaker at Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah, it was a squeaker, but, you know, Shula, I couldn't figure him out, man. I mean, he played his dad a couple of weeks ago, man, and let his dad slide by, but he couldn't let the Cowboys slide by. We gave him his first head coaching job by getting rid of him from here.
We'll talk a little bit more about the Cowboys as we go on, and a bunch of teams from around the NFL. Our guests tonight include Roger Staubach, the legendary Dallas Cowboys quarterback. 23 fourth-quarter comebacks were led by this Heisman Trophy winner, 1963 Heisman winner at Navy, Hall of Fame inductee, and most valuable player of Super Bowl VI, Roger Staubach, will join us. Also, one of the better quarterbacks still going today, Warren Moon, a guy who someday will be in the Hall of Fame. He's passed for 56,000 yards, NFL and CFL combined, more than any other pro quarterback. He's now in his 17th season, NFL Man of the Year in '89 for his community service. Warren Moon will join us from Minneapolis. And we'll talk some boxing. Angelo Dundee, the trainer for George Foreman. Foreman getting ready at age 46 to face 26-year-old Michael Moorer Saturday in Las Vegas. We'll talk about that title fight. And our celebrity pickster this week is Bruce Hornsby. Great musician, so we'll look forward to that. Nate, let's talk about some football teams, some individuals, I should say, who are hot right now. Riding the wave, 3 MVP candidates midway through the 1994 season. One of them, you would have to say, is Barry Sanders of Detroit. Right. He's already over 1,000 yards and looking good.
Oh, yeah, man. Me and Emmett talk about that every week. You know, I kind of let it pass by this week because Barry's on his way to a super year, man, and everybody's playing us lights out, so it's going to be hard for Emmett to catch him.
Stan Humphries is nursing an elbow problem right now, but the San Diego quarterback had played as well as anybody at his position before he got hurt.
Yeah, I think he's a top-rated passer right now, but he'll slide as time goes on. Barry will still be running strong.
Some would argue that the guest that we'll be having later on tonight, Warren Moon, is having an MVP-type season early on. He got off to a slow start, has still thrown more interceptions than touchdowns, but he's led the Vikings to a 6-2 record, and his new home appears to be agreeing with him.
Well, see, the thing about Warren, a lot of people don't understand is he's more than just a quarterback that can throw the ball or hand it off. He's a spiritual leader, man, so he's touching Minnesota in a great way.
Our first guest tonight played for the Dallas Cowboys from 1969 to 1979. 6 NFC title games. He led the Cowboys to 6 NFC title games during his tenure, and a couple of Super Bowl titles. Ladies and gentlemen, Roger Staubach.
Yay! How you doing, man?
Good. Roger, welcome to Sports Waves. We appreciate you being here. I tell you, you look like you could play right now. What are you doing to stay in such great shape?
Well, I play a little basketball, a Stairmaster bicycle, and watch kids grow and stay very busy in our business. I'm staying busy, and my working out is really limited to exercise equipment, and I play a little basketball now and then.
Let's talk about one of the hot topics in the NFL right now. Suddenly, everybody has discovered that football is a contact sport and that sometimes quarterbacks get hit in the head. But the Troy Aikman incidents of the last couple of weeks, and more specifically the game against the Cardinals, the shot that Wilber Marshall gave him, gave Troy a slight concussion. I think he's had 6 now as a football player. People talked about you and the fact that concussions drove you from the game possibly earlier than you would have liked to. How many concussions did you actually suffer as a football player? And how serious is this business that we're talking about now?
Well, I guess counting in high school when I started, I had an injury against the St. Xavier. You probably remember St. Xavier.
Yeah.
Purcell High School back in Cincinnati, Ohio. And it was the beginning of concussions that I guess, depends on who you talk to, probably close to 15 to 20. And some of them, most of them were such where I had to leave the game or I did not get back in the game. Of course, the extent, and if they become cumulative, you have to start worrying about them. So at the end of my career, I had one against the Atlanta Falcons that was in the playoff game, and then the next year I had 4. So I had a doctor that felt that they started to compound themselves, and so that was a reason to retire. I was 38 years old, going on 39. And if I was younger, I don't think I still would have retired. But having so many concussions, that was probably what put me over the hump. I always wanted to remember what I left on the table, and so I decided to retire. I wanted to leave something there. I wanted to remember what it was, so I decided to retire. And concussions were a factor, and especially when the last one makes the next one easier. And I think Troy is worried about making sure that they don't become cumulative and start working on each other. And if they do, then you have to start worrying about them.
Roger, I know you're in the Hall of Fame and everything, and we really appreciate what you've done for Dallas. But I hear you in the Redskins Hall of Fame or something?
I was inducted into the Washington Redskin Hall of Fame. Well, it's the Touchdown Club Hall of Fame in Washington last week. I thought it was a hoax, Nate. I thought maybe I was going to go up there and no one would be there. And all of a sudden I got there and had a lot of... In fact, I had my old coaches, Darren Talbert was there to say a few words about me. My commander when I was over in Vietnam was there. It was like this is your life, and it was really a nice event. And the Redskin people were very nice to me, which was very ironic.
We have a very interesting feature on that induction coming up in just a few minutes here as well. Right now, let's go into our studio audience. Mark Meter without a costume tonight, I noticed. Mark?
Well, Mike, I don't have a costume, and there's a good reason for that. I have a good excuse. Went to the costume store and asked them for the goofy sportscaster costume, and guess what they said? Mike Doocy just got the last one.
Oh! There I am.
Actually, I'm here with Dennis Pruitt, who is in costume. He's dressed as a referee, and an appropriate question for Roger Staubach. Dennis?
Roger, when you played, people knocked you down, stepped on you, walked on you, just basically pushed you around. The defense just came and did whatever they wanted at times. What do you think about the rules today protecting the quarterback so much?
I think the quarterback obviously is there's incentive clauses by the defensive lineman how many sacks they get. So the quarterback is part of the whole game as far as the physical side of it, and you can protect them only so much. I think the rules are pretty good today. In fact, the hit last week on Aikman by Cincinnati by Francis, I believe the linebacker, it was a good call, and I thought Marshall should have been called. So the referees are aware of making sure that it's not above and beyond what would be an illegal hit. So I think the rules are pretty darn good. I don't think you can go much further than protecting the quarterback without losing the integrity of the game. So I think since I'm retired, I think they're pretty good right now.
More with Roger Staubach coming up in just a moment. We ought to introduce you to our wave line question for tonight. We're talking uniforms. On this Halloween night, we want you to tell us which is the ugliest uniform in NFL history. The Steelers throwbacks, the Broncos throwbacks, or the Bengals any year. Our wave line number is 1-800-700-9002. Again, more with Roger Staubach coming up in just a few minutes. At a full moon on Halloween. It's Warren Moon from Minneapolis. Still to come on Sportsway.
Of the Waves, and Sports Waves is brought to you by Apex Authentic NFL Pro Line Apparel, available at Foot Action. For every action, there's Foot Action. By American Airlines, something special in the air. By the MGM Grand in Las Vegas, the world's largest hotel, casino, and theme park. And by Miami Subs Grill, great food served fast. We'll be right back with more from Roger Staubach, and later a special treat from the Waves. So don't you dare go away.
Welcome back to our special Halloween edition of Sports Waves. Jeff Blake, not bad from the Bengals. Last week he was stuck in the sand. This week he's one of the heroes. It's amazing what a difference 7 days can make in the NFL. Well, we were talking about this a little bit earlier. The Touchdown Club of Washington, D.C. is one of the most respected sporting clubs in America. To become a member, you must do something spectacular for the nation's capital. You have to sing Hail to the Redskins before every meeting, all of which makes for an interesting day when you induct one Roger Staubach into your Hall of Fame. Ken Meese with more from Washington.
You scan the hallowed walls of the Washington Touchdown Club, viewing the portraits of the venerable members of its Hall of Fame. Sonny Jurgensen, Charlie Taylor, Slingin' Sammy Ball, Roger Staubach.
If they would have called me and said, you know, we need somebody bad that the Touchdown Club can be proud of forever, who would you choose? And I would probably have said Roger Staubach.
What heresy is this? Dyron Talbert, one of the stalwarts of George Allen's over-the-hill gang defense, arch enemy of Roger the Dodgers Cowboys, exalting him as the 28th member of the Washington Touchdown Club Hall of Fame.
We had a really tough rivalry with the Redskins. I don't think we liked each other at that time, but when it was all over, the respect that we had, I don't think ever was lost.
There was no greater National Football League rivalry than the Cowboys and Redskins of the Roger Staubach era. But Staubach in the Washington Touchdown Club Hall of Fame and being introduced by Dyron Talbert, what could possibly compare?
Maybe they're just kidding me. I'm going to show up, and there's going to be no one. There's going to be a sign on the door, ha ha, Staubach.
There was no such sign. There were smiles and respect and reminiscences about plays and games between the two teams. Memories that fans will cherish forever, whether they wear blue and silver or burgundy and gold.
The worst one was when we lost up here for the NFC Championship game. They took away our entire offense, our running game especially, and they just dominated the game. And I still see Billy Kilmer hitting Charlie Taylor down the sidelines for the clinching touchdown in the second half.
Yeah, I can just remember some of the times we'd get into the third and fourth quarter and be so exhausted on a hot afternoon that, you know, you just almost wanted it to be over with before you died. I remember most of the games were like it. They all went down to the wire. They were all, the television loved us because we were good rivals and we hated each other.
In Washington, Ken Meese for Sports Waves.
Roger, we talked a little bit about this earlier. That what started off as kind of a joke turned out to be kind of a special night for you in Washington.
I tell you what, it was a great night. I had there was tables out there in the audience of Naval Academy graduates, guys I played with the Cowboys, and in fact, Drew Pearson said a few nice words about me there. So it was a night of all the way back to the old days, to the time, I guess, right now where I had the guy that was captain of our football team who was superintendent of the Naval Academy there also. So it was a lot of fun.
Who's playing quarterback right now? Who you admire?
I think the number one guy that I really admire, and I think you know, not because I'm here in Dallas, is Troy Aikman, and the things I admire, I recognize back a number of years ago. Nate remembers you guys were 1 in whatever, 1 in 15. And Troy, you could see physically he had it all. And you know, you get beat around like that, and you don't complain. You just go out there and you do your job, and you earn that leadership and that respect. Physically, I saw right away you could do it, but he's more. Quarterbacking is more than the physical ability, which he's got a lot of physical ability. It's the leadership, and it's that ability you have to bring the other players to where they believe into you to a higher level. And he's the best at I think of throwing the football with a lot of strength and accuracy, but also in leadership. So I'm his biggest fan, I guess, as a former quarterback.
Roger, I know you do a lot of things around the community for different groups and stuff like that. I mean, what are some of your business adventures that you're into now?
Well, I've in the off season of when back in the old days, I worked in the real estate business with the Henry S. Miller Company, and I had two good mentors. I had Mr. Miller and had Tom Landry on the field. So I've stayed with the real estate business and have had my own business now for a long time. And we're in Dallas and we're in 10 other cities. So I spend all my time working we have a company of 160 people. It's like being a coach. You know, it's a lot of people out there. In fact, it might be worse than being a coach as far as. So I've had my own business for a long time. We got a good-sized company.
Let's go to our studio audience now. Mark Meter. Mark.
Thank you, Mike. I'm among this great crowd of Halloween revelers here at Sports Waves, including Terry Weldon, who has a question for Roger. Terry, over here.
There you are.
Hi, Roger.
Hi, Terry.
Today, John Elway and Joe Montana are well known for come-from-behind wins. What would you consider your best come-from-behind win with the Dallas Cowboys?
I think I remember one that really led us, I think, to the point where we could believe that we could do anything as far as coming back. We were losing to the 49ers in a playoff game back in, I think, 1972, somewhere in that era, and we had to score 17 points at the end of the game to win. And I remember the 49er players were literally over there saying that you guys know what it's like to lose in the playoffs, and they were kind of giving us a hard time, saying a few words that you can't repeat here on TV. And all of a sudden, we turned that game around. It was one where you just couldn't believe it. In fact, in the film, you see our players rolling on the field after the game, and it was just one of those, you just didn't think it could happen. And then we had the Hail Mary pass up in Minnesota that Drew Pearson made a great catch. And then the last game I played in regular season game, we beat the Redskins 35-34. So those games stick out in my mind, are games that we came back and won and were a lot of fun.
Roger, before we let you go, how is the league right now, in your opinion? You've been out of the game about 15 years. You feel good about the NFL? When you watch the games on Sunday, the direction that the league is going?
Has it been that long?
You tell me.
15 years, that's kind of scary when you said that. I really enjoy it. I think that it's as competitive as it's ever been. I think players are bigger and faster. You take Nate. Nate's a big guy. And force equals mass times accelerations. But the thing about the difference in Nate is that you look at these college rosters, they got big guys on them, but this guy's agile, he's quick, and he can do everything with that size. So force equals mass times acceleration. I think the players are bigger and faster, and that's the difference. I think the skilled people, maybe running backs, receivers, are still very competitive to the old days, but the size of the linemen, linebackers, and the speed, I think, is the big difference in the league today.
Roger Staubach, good to have you on Sports Waves.
Thank you.
Soup from Lombardo's. Coming up later, we're going to talk with the man in the moon, a player who could take the Vikings to a 5th Super Bowl. Here's what Warren's Moon's teammates are saying about him in Minnesota.
Tonight's Sports Waves with Mike Doocy is being sponsored in part by Acura.
Back on Sports Waves, Mike Doocy with Nate Newton. Nate, we made reference to the fact that some 4-letter words got out on the Fox broadcast. Did you hear about that?
Oh,
The Bengals-Cowboys game. You're gonna have to start watching your language on the field, I guess.
Nah, man. We're gonna keep doing it. That's the emotion, man. You know, you just words you couldn't say when you was growing up. You know, now you get a chance to get with the fellas and say them. So we enjoy those little words.
We're going to talk some boxing now. At age 46, George Foreman is trying to do what no man has ever done before: recapture the heavyweight title 20 years after losing it. It was 1974 when Foreman fought one of the most famous bouts in history. It was the Rumble in the Jungle, the battle from Zaire, seen round the world against Muhammad Ali. In that famous rope-a-dope fight, Foreman was stunned by Ali in the 8th round.
Foreman setting him up against the rope. Vicious fast combination by Ali. Ali definitely showing the hand speed in this fight. There's the chant. Ali Boumaier. That means Ali killing.
Big fight coming up Saturday night in Las Vegas. Michael Moore, WBA and IBF World Heavyweight Champion, going against the ageless wonder, 46-year-old George Foreman. Nate, let's talk now to a boxing legend in his own right, legendary trainer Angelo Dundee. who is working with George Foreman, and Angelo Dundee joins us from the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. We appreciate you spending a few minutes with us. Angelo, talk about what it's been like to work with George Foreman and help get him ready for this fight.
Oh, I tell you, it's a pleasure because you're with a guy that's easy to get along with. You know, he's such a talent. It's a fun trip.
Everybody talks about his weight, okay? How is his weight right now as we're just a few days away from the fight?
Well, I think his weight is well balanced. I think it's a little bit on the right, a little bit on the left, and a good bit up on his shoulders.
Just the way you need it, huh? Nate Newton is with us here with a question.
Yeah, I'm a pretty big fellow myself, Mr. Dundee, but check this out. How is it different training this man when you had to train against him a few years back with Muhammad Ali?
I tell you, I had as much difficulty training Muhammad Ali as I have with George Foreman. He's easy. He's a hard-working guy. You don't have to bird dog him. You ain't got to shackle him anywhere. All you can do is keep him away from restaurants.
Given the fact, though, that you did train against Foreman at one time, does it give you some insight into his style, and maybe you could lead him in some directions that might keep him out of trouble in the ring?
Well, no, you got to realize that George Foreman that Muhammad fought is a different ball game altogether. He was not the guy that he is today. In those days, he was the home run hitter. If he didn't get the home run, then he was in big trouble. Now, I showed that the kid's form right now is steady, steady, steady. And that's going to lick more.
46 years of age, George Foreman. I know what you're going to say to this, but do you really think he belongs in the ring? Is there a danger having him in the ring? Is he endangering himself at all?
The only danger is that he's going to beat more, and then he's going to drive people crazy, saying, how can this guy, 46 years old, be the heavyweight champ of the world?
We had hoped to have George on with us as well as yourself, but he's in the midst of training right now. I would guess that's why he couldn't join us at this point?
That's correct. I'm the little package they send along if George can't make it.
Well, we appreciate having you with us, though.
Nice having you, sir.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm happy to be here because people here at the MGM are really excited about the fight, and how can you not get excited being from Dallas?
The weigh-in is Thursday, the fight coming up Saturday at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. Quick word on Michael Moore. George Foreman was a commentator on television for some of Moore's fights, and apparently Moore took offense at some of the things George had to say as a commentator. Does Foreman respect his opponent?
I'm telling you, he respects the heck out of him, but the point is, how can you not respect a George Foreman? He's an immovable force, got the style to kick the heck out of Moore, and that's what's going to happen.
What round?
It ain't going to be a round to guess him because Muhammad only did that stuff.
Right.
And George is the guy who's going to go out there and do the job on Moore.
If the fight goes any distance to speak of, is George in trouble? Does he have to end it relatively early, do you think?
George is just like old wine. He goes on forever.
All right. Angelo Dundee, we appreciate you being with us.
Thank you, sir.
Real thrilled talking to you. And good luck to you and your fighter. Back to Sports Wave. Midway through the NFL season, there are a lot of mediocre football teams out there. Still a lot of teams trying to find themselves. Who will be the teams still standing after Week 16? Well, maybe not the same ones that are standing tall right now. With a wrap-up of Week 8, we have Mark Meter with some accompaniment from Dwayne Hagar. Dwayne?
And there are some of the week number 9 in the NFL finds us at the midway point for the regular season. Halloween weekend brought out some frightful-looking characters on the field as well as off. check out Houston Oilers quarterback Billy Joe Tolliver. That's a scary-looking run for a touchdown. But the Oilers lose and fall to 1-7 on the year. The Kansas City Chiefs fans are scared of the Buffalo Bills. Jim Kelly and his Bills put a hex on Joe Montana and the Chiefs, scoring from anywhere at any time in a 44-10 win. Both teams now have 5-3 records. The New York Giants with the ugly play. Dave Brown has to toss the ball out of the back of the end zone, giving the Lions 2 points. Later, Brown finds the opposing team's player again, something he's done 10 times in the last 5 games. This one's good for a TD. In spite of those mistakes, the game goes into overtime, but nobody in the NFL can beat the Wizards of OT, the Lions. They win their 3rd extra period game this season, and that's a new NFL record. Speaking of magic, how appropriate that Don Majkowski would get his first start in over 2 years on a Halloween weekend. The Magic Man helped his Indianapolis Colts improve their record to 4-5 by throwing and even running for touchdowns. While the Ponies beat the Jets, New York is still a half game up on Indy in the AFC East. The Broncos get a good showing from John Elway to beat the Cleveland Browns, and these 2 Denver fans win the best costume prize for the weekend as Bronco fans with their kids on their backs. The Magic is back in San Diego after last week's loss ruined the Chargers' run at an undefeated season. The Bolts bounced back, and Natron Means ran for over 100 yards in this TD, helping San Diego topple the Seattle Seahawks. But the Magic may have worn off a bit for Redskins quarterback Gus Frerotte. He threw 13 for 30 and 3 touchdowns in his 2nd NFL start, but the NFL's newest darling also threw 2 interceptions. Eddie Murray hits the last-second field goal to win it for Philly. In the NFC East, the Redskins stay in the cellar at 2-7. The Eagles are 6-2, 1 game behind the Dallas Cowboys. The world champions get frightened by the Cincinnati Bengals. The winless Tigers almost pull off the big upset. A late field goal was the difference, and Cowboys coach Barry Switzer feels the NFL's only winless team is playoff caliber.
With the talent they got, they ought to be in the playoffs. The way they played, why aren't they? Why hadn't they won a game?
2 words for you, Barry. Decaffeinated coffee. Take a chill, Switz. With the week's NFL rep, I'm Mark Meter for Sports Waves.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Dwayne, for the musical accompaniment. Speaking of music, Bruce Hornsby is one of the country's most respected musicians. He's had several hits on his own. He's also played with the Grateful Dead, currently touring with Bonnie Raitt. When he heard that Sports Waves was looking for somebody to pick next week's games, well, Bruce Hornsby could not resist.
I want to know why New England's not on this list. I want to talk about New England because they have the baddest defensive player from my area, Chris Slade. Anyway, since New England's not on the list, I guess we got the Raiders against the Chiefs. Well, since I don't know much about all this, to be perfectly honest with you, I guess I do know that Marcus Allen went from the Raiders to the Chiefs, and he's still damn good. And Montana's with the Chiefs. And Matt Blunden from the University of Virginia is a backup quarterback, so I have no choice but to go with the Chiefs. This next game, New Orleans Saints at Minnesota Vikings. Oh, it's cold in Minnesota. It's starting to get cold there. I think New Orleans is going to win. It's starting to get too cold it shows you how much I know about either team. Actually, I can't name one person on either team. New York Giants at Dallas. Well, hey, kind of hard to root against. Hard to go against Dallas. Of course, there's lots of hometown connections here because LT is from my hometown of Williamsburg, and he played with the Giants. So since LT is no longer with them, I'll have to go with Dallas. There you go.
That's just the way it is.
That's just the way it is from Bruce Hornsby with our pick 3. Coming up next from the Twin Cities, Warren Moon joins us. Stay with us for that conversation and more on Sports Waves. Warren's coming up.
After my divorce, I was up to my neck.
Welcome back to Sports Waves. Some crazies in the crowd on Halloween. Glad you could be with us today. From time to time on Sports Waves, we send a limousine to get our guests. And for the big stars, we not only send the car, but the waves as well. Earlier tonight, the Waves were on the road, a special trip to the home of Warren Moon.
So where did you say we were going? I don't know. Driver, where are we going?
We're gonna go see the man in the moon.
Oh my gosh. Oh, this is so weird. I'm not kidding.
Did he mean Warren Moon?
This is Warren Moon's house? This is Warren Moon's house?
Yeah, stop pushing, you guys. This is it. Hi, I'm Paige Langton with Sports Waves. Have you seen Warren Moon? Never mind, I'll find him myself. We're looking for Warren Moon. Do you know where he is? Anywhere? Hello? No? Do you know where Warren Moon is? Does anyone? Oh my God, can you tell me where Warren Moon is? Nobody knows where they are. I have to have them for the show. I've been looking everywhere and nobody can tell me where Warren Moon is. That's all I want from you people and you can't help me. Can you please just tell me where he is?
You're looking for Warren Moon of the Minnesota Vikings? This is Houston. He's in Minnesota. Come on, I'll show you. Well, he's a great quarterback. Watch out for that blade. At 37 years old, he's only done 50.
And Warren Moon joins us from the Twin Cities. Special thanks to Verdun Manor and Wolf Studios for their help in that piece as well. We now have found Warren Moon in the Twin Cities. Welcome to Sports Waves. Warren, this is Mike Doocy, and Nate Newton of the Cowboys is with me here today.
All you guys had to do was call me if you were looking for me.
Well, what a transition. 10 years in Houston and now in Minnesota, and you've got them, or you're helping them get off to a 6-2 start. How's the transition gone for you? Was it slow at first, and now you're kind of picking up a full head of steam?
Yeah, it was a major change for me being in one place for as long as I was, and I was really involved in the community as well as, you know, a big part of that football team. So for me to pick up and move and go to another city at this point in my career, you know, being 37 years old and having to learn an entirely new offense all over again, it was a big change for me, but I've made the transition, and I really like the situation up here. The organization is first class. We got a good team, a great head coach and staff, so things are going well for us right now.
So like you said earlier, you know, you like to get into the community. Are you doing the same type things up there in Minnesota, you know, getting involved with the community and working with the kids?
Yeah, I really am, Nate. We're getting ready to open our offices here at Crescent Moon Foundation branch here in the Minneapolis area, and we've already done some things with a lot of large groups of kids here, and we plan on doing the same type of things we were doing in Houston. We're going to continue to do those things in Houston, but also do some things up here in the Twin Cities while I'm playing up here.
Saw you in Houston a couple of weeks ago for your first Oiler game since you had left. What were the emotions as you went back to the Dome, and what was the reaction that you got?
Well, there was a lot of people saying they missed me and wish I was back, and it was good to see some of the fans there, and it was really tough watching some of my teammates play because they're really going through some tough times right now. They're 1-7. They're really finding every way possible there is to lose a football game. They had a really heartbreaking loss yesterday. And I just feel for those guys because I've been through a lot of battles with them over the years, and I know they're a better football team than what they have.
You feel for the players, but is there any part of you that feels somewhat vindicated in terms of the way that you were, in essence, forced out of Houston, salary cap considerations and so on and so forth, to now see them struggling so much? You can't feel too badly for the ownership, can you?
Well, not at all for the ownership. I mean, they made a mistake. There's no question about it. But they made a decision based on money, and they made a decision based on youth, and they wanted to go with a younger guy, and they had to cut some money off their salary because they had so many free agents that they had to get signed. So I understood that, but I still thought I had some pretty good football left in me, and it's just a decision they had to make.
Warren, we have a lot of people in our audience who want to ask you some questions, and Mark Meter is standing by with them. Mark?
Thank you, Mike. I'm with Heather Hoyt, one of our waves, and you may have seen her in the limousine earlier, but you may not recognize her because she's dressed up as a little girl tonight. But Heather has a question for Warren.
Hi, Warren. You
Hello.
spent about 10 years in hot and humid Houston. How are you adjusting to the climate in Minnesota?
You know, so far it hasn't gotten cold yet. It's probably in the high 50s right now in the day, and it drops down at night into the 40s, but it's going to get cold. But the key is that we play indoors in a dome stadium, and we practice indoors when it gets cold. So that part I don't have to really be concerned that much about. And I played in Canada the first part of my career, so I'm used to playing in cold weather, and it just takes your blood a little time to thicken up a little bit, and you can play in anything.
Warren, a lot of people look at the Cowboys and the 49ers as the guys going to meet in the NFC game. But I'm kind of thinking y'all going to meet us in the NFC game. I mean, what are you thinking about it?
Well, you know, we're just trying to tag along behind you guys in the 49ers. Those are the teams everybody seems to talk about. And at some point, you guys are going to play each other, and one of you guys are going to knock each other off. And we hope we're just sitting there with the next best record. And if we can win our division, get a home field advantage, win a couple of games, hopefully we'll get a chance to play you guys in the NFC Championship. Hopefully that's in Minnesota, but if not, we'll come to Dallas too.
Warren, stand by. We'll have more with Warren Moon. First, here's what some of Warren's Viking teammates are saying about their new quarterback.
Reading up on my little lunar calendar history, and full moons and a guy with the last name Moon is kind of nerve-wracking for other teams, and I'll probably stay away from him in the locker room because I'm sure he's going to be a little bit more on fire, and I don't know if he'll turn into a wolf or not.
Well, I don't know if Warren needs magic. I mean, you put the ball in Warren Moon's hands, and they're in pretty good hands. So let's just hope it's a full moon.
Give us a call on the wave line, the ugliest NFL uniform in history. That's what we're looking for from you, your opinion tonight. I'm Mike Doocy with Nate Newton, and Warren Moon is with us via satellite from the Twin Cities. Warren, you're playing for Dennis Green, a guy who's well respected as one of the fine young coaches around the league. Compare and contrast a little bit the style of your current head coach with that of your former head coach Jack Pardee in Houston.
Well, I think Dennis is a little bit more outgoing than Coach Pardee was. Dennis takes a little bit more control of what's going on around here. He has a lot more control, and I think that helps with any head coach. In Houston, the ownership and management got more involved in the running of the football team, which made it very difficult for Coach Pardee to do his job. But here in Minnesota, they've pretty much let Dennis have the reins as far as running this team the way he wants to run it. He's a very organized coach. He really takes care of the players as far as making sure we're fresh and well prepared to play. And all the guys enjoy playing for him. So it's a great atmosphere for a professional.
Warren, I know last year when y'all had a little bad stretch when you was with Houston, a lot of people was down on you. I mean, and then when y'all made that run and everything started going y'all way, I mean, by you being in Minnesota, how does that affect your family? I mean, when you had a little bad problem going into preseason, did that affect your family? Do they go through any problems with that?
It was a tough time there for a while. I think whenever a quarterback doesn't play well in any city, it's going to be tough on them, and you're going to hear the boos and you're going to hear the critics. And I heard my share of them early in the season last year, but fortunately we were able to come out of that situation and turn our season around, and we won 11 games in a row. And as a quarterback, you're only as good as your last game, and everybody seems to be for you as long as you're winning. So that's the way it pretty much was for me last year, and it's just too bad we didn't go further in the playoffs. But we had a pretty good football team, and we put together a pretty good run last year.
Warren Moon is our guest from the Minnesota Vikings. Let's go to our studio audience with Mark Meter. Mark.
Warren, I've got a question for you. You've been in this league a long time. You spent some time in Canada, spent some time with Houston, many years in Houston, and now in Minnesota. Does it look like you're going to be retiring anytime soon, or you're going to be like George Foreman, hanging on for a long time?
You know, I'm just taking it a year at a time right now. I really feel good as far as my body, and I still have a desire to play the game, and I haven't had any real major injuries, you know, knock on wood. And as long as those things can happen, I'm going to continue to play the game. But I'm going to take it a year at a time and see how I feel, and we'll go by that.
All right, Warren Moon, we appreciate you being with us. Thank you,
Warren. See you in the playoffs, man.
All right, Nate, you take care and get yourself healthy now.
All right.
Warren Moon of the Minnesota Vikings. Next week, Jimmy Johnson joins us for Sports Waves. We'll be right back with more in a minute.
Hi, I'm Dana Northrup. Next week on Sports Waves, former receiver of the Dallas Cowboys, Drew Pearson, head coach of the Chicago Bears, Dave Onstadt, and the one and only Jimmy Johnson. See you then, if we make it out alive.
Sports Waves is brought to you by Apex Authentic NFL Pro Line Apparel. Available at Foot Action. For every action, there's Foot Action. By American Airlines. Something special in the air. By the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. The world's largest hotel, casino, and theme park. And by Miami Subs Grill. Great food served fast.
Back on Sports Waves, Mike Doocy with Nate Newton. Nate, the Cowboys are a battered and bruised football team right now, especially along the offensive line. Eric Williams out for the year. He had surgery on the knee after the car accident. 2A is hurting. You're not feeling so good yourself right now with the ankle problem. How do you guys keep it together and continue to make the run?
Well, last year when Emmett went down with his shoulder, he set the tone. I mean, a lot of times, a guy get an ankle injury, he missed a week or two. But when Emmett went down last year, it just made everybody come back sooner. Like, now I'm hurting. Two is hurting, but we got to play, man, because Emmett set the tone and we got to play.
Nate, let's take a look at the results of our viewer poll. The Wave line, one of the ugliest uniforms in NFL history. Well, the Steeler throwbacks get 50% of the vote. The Sunday night game is fresh on a lot of people's minds. The Bengals, a close second. Bengals any year for their uniform, especially with those hideous striped helmets, 40%, then 10% for the Broncos throwbacks. Thanks for calling on the Wave line. We appreciate that. And thanks for being with us tonight. We thank Roger Staubach, Warren Moon, Nate Newton as well. That'll do it for Sports Waves. I'm Mike Doocy. Thanks for being with us. And Jimmy Johnson joins us next week, by the way, as we say goodnight, a special Halloween tune from Emerald City. Dino, yours.
Happy Halloween with the Emerald City Band. Come on and sing with me. Halloween is scary. 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 Halloween is scary.
Lombardo Custom Apparel, America's finest custom clothing. Accommodations in South Florida provided by the Marriott Key Largo Bay Beach Resort. And in Dallas, Jimmy Johnson and his guests stay at the beautiful Melrose Hotel. Sports Waves is a presentation of DCL Media and Lone Star Hospitality Corporation.